You can try to hold back the wave, but they will always wash upon your feet. Two waters flow with a barrier in between, the salty sea and rivers fresh and sweet. Two waters flow with a barrier in between.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have for you a new episode of Contemporary Fiqh Issues. We're dealing again with the issue continuing from last week's episode of beautification and cosmetics and its position in Islam. We have with us again in the studio today our special guest, Shaykh Assim Al-Hakim06. Shaykh Assim, welcome.
Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallahu feekum. Shaykh Assim is one of the well-known callers and scholars who has traveled extensively throughout the world giving da'wah and lectures to Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Shaykh Assim, last time we were discussing the issue of beautification in Islam. We saw a report by Dr. Ibrahim regarding cosmetic surgery. Could you just briefly for us and for the audience who's just now joining us discuss the issue of beautification in Islam briefly?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa matada bihudah wa ba'd. We mentioned last time we met that Islam promotes beautification within the legitimate boundaries. And there are means that are forbidden in Islam for us to take in order to gain or reach beautification. Because it's not a goal by itself, it's means that would take us to where Islam wants us to go. And we've mentioned that a husband should look good for his wife, and a wife should look well to her husband, and so on. And we said that Islam, if we try to dissect the forbidden things, talks about three things. And this is what I believe, it might be more, but these are the categories that I think that Islam talks against in forms of beautification. We said that the main reason for making these things forbidden in Islam is that people seek beautification and at the same time they alter the creation of Allah.
Something that, as Allah mentioned in the Qur'an, and you quoted last time,
Yes.
this is something that the shaitan is really eager and he's working hard to do.
That's true, as mentioned in Surah An-Nisa and elsewhere. So, these two reasons should prevent Muslims from following the footsteps of shaitan and not pursuing the concept of beautification, the concept of being young forever, because this goes against Islam. And we've also mentioned that there are three forms or categories that usually beautifications fall under. You either beautify the hair on your body, whether it's in your head or in your whole body, by removing or by keeping, by bleaching, by dyeing. So this is the first category, and that I would like to pursue, if you don't mind.
Could you just mention some of the other categories and then we'll go on to the first category, inshallah?
The second category is using the color on the body. And this falls under, for example, tattooing, because you use ink or special paint to fill the puncture one makes on his body or on the skin. Bleaching, you've got Michael Jackson, MJ, for example. He used to be black and all of a sudden he became white. So is this kind of beautification, if we can consider this to be beautification?
Yeah, we're considering white beautification over black because Allah created all creatures and created them all with their unique beauty.
And this is ridiculous when you come to look at it. Changing your color, you're that humiliated? Why? You should be proud of your color. Why follow the media? But this is, again, another topic. The third category is the general cosmetic surgery, where you have structural corrections, for example, restructuring the face, You have a big nose, you want to have a small nose. You have a small nose, you want a Roman nose. Botox injections to remove the wrinkles or to give the lips
There's
a
a
bigger
lot
size.
of different forms, inshallah.
Yes, a lot, and it's the body, reducing the size of the body, enlarging parts of the body, and so on.
Okay, so maybe, inshallah, if Allah permits, we can get into this in a future episode. But let's go back to the first category that you were mentioning, Barakallahu Feekum, which was regarding
The hair.
No.
Now, the hair on the body, scholars say, is divided into 3 types. Types that you must remove, and types that you must not remove. And the third type is that it's up to you whether you're to remove it or not. So we're not interested in the third part, because if it's up to me to remove it or not, then this means it's permissible. And this is, generally speaking, the hair on the arms and the legs.
And the chest, no?
And the chest, of course, for men, not for women. So, because if it's for women, it becomes mandatory for them to move. I'm talking about, generally speaking, this is up to the man or to the woman to remove the hair on their arms or their legs. If they want to do this, this is permissible. And in some countries, it becomes recommended when the husband wants this from his wife. For men, it is again permissible, and in some countries it becomes not recommended, if not forbidden, depending on how people look at men.
Depending on the culture that's involved.
So if they consider this to be a form of gayness or homosexuality, then it becomes forbidden.
Or even imitation of women, because in the West it's very common that only women would shave their legs and arms, for example.
It depends. Okay. If you look, and I hope you don't look, but if you look at bodybuilders, they do remove all the hair on their bodies because they have to show off, and this sport is not permissible in Islam. It's permissible to lift weights and to work out in the gym, but it's not permissible to expose your body to the people and expose your awrah and boast about something that Allah has given you to appreciate, rather than to impress people and to go out of what Allah has created you for. Yes. So now this is the permissible part of removing the hair of the body.
So it's up to the individual, or it's relative to the circumstances of a culture.
That's true. If we go on to the second part, which is hair that is forbidden to remove, then if you do remove this hair, you're sinful and you're changing the creation of Allah. But before we go into this category, we go to the first one, which is hair that you must remove. Maybe someone would ask, listen, if we must remove this hair, isn't this hair part of what Allah has created? So wouldn't I be changing the creation of Allah when I do this? What do you think would the answer be?
Well, some individuals would say, for example, you could fall into the category of growing out your nails. They say, why should we cut our nails? Is this changing the creation as well?
Okay.
I'd like you to answer, inshallah, but as we know that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned certain things that are from the fitrah, they're from the natural inclination.
Exactly.
So, and the Prophet is the one who has been endowed with knowledge from Ar-Rahman, from Allah, the one who has created us.
Exactly. That's good. This is the answer. It's exactly when Satan stood up and said, I'm not going to prostrate to Adam. He could have justified this by saying, prostration is haram to other than Allah. But he was doomed to the Day of Judgment because it was Allah who ordered him to do this.
Yes.
So now we go back to square one, which is total submission to Allah. It is Allah who instructed us to remove this hair that He created. And it's an act of obedience, and it's a form of worship. And the hair that a Muslim should remove from his body is the pubic hair and the armpit hair.
This is for both men and women.
This is definitely for both men and women, and it's mandatory. It is not sunnah, in the sense that you have people thinking that this is recommended. If I do it, alhamdulillah. If I don't, it's up to me. And I've seen a lot of men who are proud of their manhood. You know, when they take off the t-shirts and you see like the jungles of Africa.
Yes.
under the arms, and maybe you find a monkey here or there. What is this? He said, yes, I'm a man, I'm a macho man.
And this is a place generally where filth and sweat collect.
The biggest and most famous man that ever walked the earth was the Prophet ﷺ. And it is part of his full manhood that he used to remove the armpit hair and the pubic area hair. This is what he instructed us to do. And this is part of the cleanliness of a Muslim, not only externally, but also internally. So this is a must. We have something that is in between. That is, you must not remove it. It's forbidden for you to touch.
So we discussed what you have to remove, which is the underarm and the private area, the hair that's found at the underarms and the private area. And now we're moving on to the second category, inshallah, which is that which you can't remove.
That's true. Of course, we mentioned at the very beginning the thing that is permissible to remove. It's up to you. You want to remove it or keep it. Now we go into the things that you must not remove. For men, it's the beard. It is forbidden for them to remove it. And this has evidence from the Qur'an in one verse, and it has ample evidence from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and the consensus of the scholars throughout the time, the four schools of thought, that it is forbidden to be shaved. And they differ whether it is permissible to cut it short or not. And those who say it's permissible, they say that whatever exceeds a fist length, it's permissible for you to shorten.
And they base this off the hadith of Abu Huraira and
Ibn Umar.
Abdullah bin Umar.
Yes,
when
this
they
is
went
true.
for Hajj and they cut their beard.
Yeah, but unfortunately, people nowadays go like this, and they do it from the top instead of the bottom.
Yes.
And again, I follow the opinion that says that it's not permissible at all to touch the beard. And this is part of the Sunnah. It's different schools of thought.
Also, we can see with the Prophet ﷺ, with regards to the Prophet ﷺ, who's the best of examples, that there's many hadith which narrate that his beard reached about half his chest. And so we can see from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and in his wording how he amplified to just leave it. And
Yes.
Clean it and comb it. We'd like to get back, inshallah, to that point, but unfortunately we have to go to a break at this moment. Join us back in just a bit. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.
The Philosophy of Islamic Law, a program for restoring belief and trust within Muslims' mind and heart, and for re-establishing a true concept about Islamic rules for others.
Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those of you just joining us, we were just discussing with Shaykh Assim Al-Hakim06 regarding the issue of beautification and its place in Islam. Shaykh Assim, you were just mentioning the different categories, the category of things that are up to the individual, and regarding culture, you mentioned the category of that which is obligatory to remove of the hair found on humans, male and female. And then we were just going over the issue of hair that it's Islamically forbidden to remove. You mentioned, Barakallahu Feek, briefly the issue of the beard for men, that men, it's obligatory for them, by consensus of all scholars, to have at least some form of a beard, and they differed regarding the length. What is the hair that's for a woman, for example, if she has a beard growing like some of these women in circuses, does she have to keep it as well?
Well, definitely she has to remove it, because this goes against her nature. So as it is forbidden for men to shave their beards because it goes against their nature and makes them look like women, Likewise, women, if they grow a beard or a mustache, they are compelled, they are forced to remove it so that they would not imitate men. And having said that, the length of the beard is either to be left as it is, or it should not be shorter than a fist. Other than that, this would not be permissible with the majority of scholars. And a lot of the Muslims, unfortunately, seem to think, and I don't know where they get this thinking from, that it's a sunnah. If you do it, you are rewarded. If you don't, there's nothing wrong in that.
I think this has to do with some scholars mentioned that a lot of Muslims view anything that came in a hadith, whether or not it was an order or forbiddance, when they see something came in a hadith specifically, they say, oh, it's just sunnah. But the word sunnah has two meanings. It has the meaning of sunnah, something that the Prophet ﷺ did, and sunnah, a revelation that came from Allah through the Prophet ﷺ, which is found in the authentic ahadith, which could either be an order from the Prophet ﷺ, which is in effect an order from Allah. It can be forbidding something that wasn't necessarily forbidden in the Qur'an.
This is beautifully stated, and it's exactly the right thing or the right way to look at it. Sunnah can mean the way. So anything that the Prophet did ﷺ is a sunnah. Even the 5 mandatory obligatory prayers, they are considered to be sunnah because he did it. But once you want to classify it, whether it is mandatory, recommended, permissible, not recommended or forbidden, then this is a different story. So when we talk about the beard as something that the Prophet did, it's a sunnah. But when we want to talk about the ruling of the beard, of growing the beard, or actually, let us say, leaving the beard. See, you don't have to grow it. If it doesn't come out, you don't have to put fertilizers in your face and water it every day hoping that it grows up. This is not what Allah wants from you.
It's actually more work to get rid of it every day.
It's true, and it's more expensive as well. So this is, if you look at the ruling, it is mandatory. Now, having said that, for women, it's mandatory to remove.
If some women have the misfortune
Yes.
of growing facial hair.
Okay. Women, on the other hand, have hair on their bodies that must not be touched. And this is referred to the eyebrows. As we've mentioned in the previous hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said about the women plucking the eyebrows, and he said that, may Allah curse the woman who plucks the eyebrows and the woman who has that done. So plucking the eyebrows is forbidden for a woman.
So what about a woman trimming the eyebrows with a shaver?
The most authentic opinion upon scholars that it is also not permissible, neither to shave it, trim it, or to cut the long bits of it, because it falls under the same category of changing the creation of Allah for the purpose of beautification.
So it's causing the same result in the end, such as when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the issue of removing the hair found under the armpits, he mentioned for men that they have to pluck it. But some ulama, they said, as long as they're removing, because that's the main intention, is to remove it. So whether it's by plucking or by cutting. So likewise, if a woman were to play around with her eyebrows, whether by scissors or a knife or a shaver or by plucking it by hand or anything of that form, is impermissible.
Well, regarding plucking of the armpit hair, it's the Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy on his soul, who said that if you shave it, it's exactly like plucking it, because the removal is intended and the means are only sunnah. Other scholars say no, the Prophet ﷺ did not vary the means by saying you have to shave the private hair and pluck the armpit hair.
And I believe the opposite for women.
Yes, some say this is the true, but generally speaking, the concept is there, which is that a woman must not pluck, and it's of a lesser degree to trim with scissors, but it's still forbidden, unless the hair itself becomes harmful.
Or if the hair is extended into her eye.
Yes, if this is the case, it is harmful. And we have tons of questions from women complaining and saying, listen, my husband wants this, my husband doesn't want that. And women say that our husbands insist on us plucking the eyebrows. So what do we do? Well, the answer is well known. It is not permissible for a person to obey another person in disobeying Allah the Almighty. And this is what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam. So you have to try your best and convince him, talk him out of it. And if this is not permissible, then you may use other means to reduce the harm of your eyebrows.
Likewise, for some of us, some of the brothers who are facing problems at home, when they want to grow their beards, they might face opposition from their parents. And they might say, okay, well, I have to obey my parents. But Allah has more rights to be obeyed. But at the same time, deal with your parents in a calm and wise manner and try to find a common ground in the issue. Correct?
This is correct. But again, regarding the beard, it's a different issue because you cannot do anything about it. Regarding the eyebrows, women can do something that may reduce the harm of how the eyebrows look.
So what about women who have a unibrow? They have the hair between the eyebrows.
Some scholars say that this is not considered to be part of the eyebrows. Because if you identify the beard, for example, the hair, the facial hair that grows on top of your cheek here is not considered to be part of the beard. So you can shave this. And the hair that grows on your neck is not part of your beard. So you can shave this as well. It's not going to look nice, but it's permissible because the definition of the beard is it's the hair that grows on your lower jaw. So likewise, if you define the eyebrows, some people say it is part and some say it is not part of the eyebrows.
It's not directly covering the eye.
Yes. So
nose brow.
Some scholars say it's permissible to remove. Personally, and out of experience, women who pluck this area, they don't find it easy after a year or two. It becomes harder, harsher, and it looks ugly if they don't do it every single or every other day. And besides, when they're joined, they look beautiful on most women. It has a very beautiful look. But unfortunately, people are influenced by the media. They keep on seeing things.
By the standards that are set in magazines, TV shows, movies.
True. And they would like to imitate this, not knowing that they look more beautiful than what they see. But what I meant by saying that a woman has the means to reduce the size of her eyebrows in an Islamic way is by bleaching it. And this is an issue of dispute among scholars. Some say that bleaching it is changing the creation of Allah.
Bleaching it meaning adding dye to it? Or?
Yes, it's sort of oxygen that gives it the same color and tone of the skin.
Okay, so coloring some of it to make it look thinner.
It makes it look like the skin. So if I look at it from a distance, I wouldn't see the actual hair of the eyebrows.
Okay.
But if I come so close, then I can see that there is white hairs here, and it's shaped in a nice way. But the hair that was bleached is not visible until you come close to it.
Okay.
So some scholars say, no, this is considered to be tricking, and you're doing the same effect.
You're causing the same apparent result.
Yes, but at the end of the day, it's not plucking, it's not cutting the hair, and it's not removing it. So what's wrong in it? And this is the verdict of our Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy on his soul. And he says, now, bleaching is the legitimate way out. Women can do this, and it's not changing the creation of Allah the Almighty. One may argue and say, okay, is this unpermissibility of plucking the eyebrows only for women or also for men? The answer would be, it's also for men, because the majority who would do this are women. So if we end up finding men who do this, then it is more forbidden upon them.
And in fact, we see that there's actually women who did this in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, such that he mentioned directly. So if it was an action of the women, a man doing it would kind of be an imitation of women. Even though if it's an imitation of women doing something haram, it's still effeminate in itself, no?
That is completely true. And unfortunately, nowadays, we have so many confusing things of men doing things that are strictly for women, such as ear piercing, and this would inshallah come on a later stage.
Jazakallah khairan, ya Shaykh. We mentioned briefly the issue of hair that's impermissible to remove. Next episode we'd like to continue and discuss about the hair that's impermissible to change or extend, such as hair extensions and so on and so forth. But unfortunately we're just out of time for today. So please join us again next week inshallah, and Shaykh Asim will be joining us again. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You can try to hold back the waves, but they will always wash upon your feet. Two waters flow with a barrier in between, the salty sea and rivers fresh and sweet. Everything Allah commands to be will always become a reality. Everything Allah commands to be will always become a reality. Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.